Katikiro'S PSAs, they now have proof that Lumbuye was pushing Bobi Wine's agenda. Hello, welcome, and thanks for joining us live on Projan Media TV that brings the latest news and the latest updates in the country and across the world. Kindly do one thing, subscribe and turn on the notification button for all these updates. On Wednesday morning, we woke up to the news of the arrest of political activist Fred Kajjubi Lumbuye from Turkey. This news is of great concern to many Ugandans who support freedom both home and abroad. For now, we are working around the clock to establish the facts, and I'm grateful to all those who are doing everything to support his case, including our diaspora leadership teams. Our leadership team at home has also engaged the Turkish Embassy on the matter, and therefore we all must be very concerned about this development because, as we know, many Ugandans only feel safe to criticize the regime in Uganda from a safe distance in countries abroad. The governments of the world ought to protect the rights of political dissidents and exiles who have sought refuge in their countries. Ugandans abroad ought to feel safe. The above was a solidarity statement from Bobi Wine's post on his Facebook page, protesting the eventual arrest of his key supporter and diaspora promoter Fred Kajjubi Lumbuye, who he described as a Ugandan political activist deserving to live in total freedom. But this same Lumbuye had for years specialized in character assassinating leaders both in Uganda and central government. He rarely provided proof to authenticate some of the very damaging things he kept uttering against his targets. Coming off as a man of very modest education, Lumbuye, in his Facebook live broadcast and YouTube malicious demonization campaign, targeted whoever he was told was a threat to Bobi Wine's perceived political supremacy. Because at some point, a lot of people perceived him as potential a great candidate for president, relatively young Katikiro'S became one of Lumbuye's prime targets, and in his world, only Mr. Bobi Wine has a legitimate right to compete for presidency. The rest can only be diversions, and yet in the process of making Maiga look bad and unworthy, that typically very unsophisticated blogger crudely went after many other leaders associated with the Uganda kingdom, a thing that could in the long term alienate his favored National Unity Platform party from some would-be allies. That is how, in ways that could hurt and alienate the NUP brand in the long term, the likes of the Nabagereka of Uganda, Kabaka's brother, David Wasaja, and other senior citizens like John Katende and the Owik David Chewalabye Mel, just to mention a few, found themselves consistently targeted for criminal demonization in his greatness and Lumbuye's regular broadcasts. And by the way, now that he is finally under some effective confinement, some of these leaders will definitely be pushing or pursuing him separately in civil courts for defamation, and who could end up being required to pay billions in damages which he publicly isn't known to possess. In his demonization campaign, Lumbuye became a god of sorts, with many of his followers christening him infallible. It became normal for some of his followers, and some have called them gullible, to crudely defend his right to deceive and lie against anyone he considered or perceived to be a threat to Mr. Chagulanyi's perceived supremacy. Even those that would be perceived as not being harsh or critical enough of the central government would be targeted for extreme demonization. And being one not to go down with a flight, Maiga often responded using veiled language dispute to dispute some of the demonization Lumbuye would be propagating against him. The celebrated wordsmith from Budu one time referred to Lumbuye as Noah Mawagali, prompting the Turkey-based social media bully to respond with more demonization as his social media crowd cheered him on. According to Peter Maiga's PA, that is personal assistant, now Dennis Juko, one of the Katikiro'S assistants on social media issues, asserts what many of his colleagues in the Maiga entourage have always only whispered about fearing backlash from Mr. Bobi Wine's more than 2-meter social media followers. A blue-eyed boy of the Katikiro Juko asserts that the sympathy and statements of solidarity Mr. Bobi Wine exhibited the morning after Lumbuye's arrest is indicative that National Unit Platform principle is the man whose interest the Turkey-based Nkuba Cheyo has always been propagating in going after the perceived alternative leaders like the Katikiro. Therefore, he said, now we know who he was working for. No wonder they never condemned him as he announced Sabasaja Kabaka dead. The other day, National Unity Platform leaders called him a hero, a comrade as he celebrated his birthday. Juko posted on his Facebook page in a bid to dispute the solidarity statement Mr. Bobi Wine posted in response to Lumbuye's confinement. And yet Juko's pain isn't hard to fathom because he is among those charged with ensuring the Katikiro'S image is positively portrayed on social media, where bullies and peddlers of fake news like his greatness, Lumbuye, have remarkably been dominating. Inside Maiga's camp, there is a belief, could be true or false, that the man from Magere used to dominate everything sphere he goes into since his days as a musician and showbiz newsmaker, perceives the Katikiro as a potential rival or threat to his perceived political supremacy and dominance in the contemporary Ugandan media space. This explains why Peter Maiga camp insiders have always perceived Lumbuye as a hatchet man for the political closers from Magere. Juko's post attracted mixed reactions, with some people asserting that Lumbuye's arrest must be unanimously condemned because it amounts to nothing but broader plans by the regime to attack free speech, implying all social media users, including Juko, are potentially a target of the impending clamp down on those politically expressing themselves in ways the regime considers repugnant and hostile. Others supported Juko's view, asserting that the best the millions of noob fans on social media must do is to demand for fair and speedy trial for their man. There are also other social media users who saw the arrest as an opportunity for Lumbuye to corroborate the truth contained in his utterances against public officials. They likened Lumbuye's current predicament to Col Chiza Besiges, who, on being arrested for spreading news that he had won the 2016 elections, he and his supporters only demanded fair and speedy trial so that the veteran politician from Rwakabengo would be enabled a platform to validate his claims. Lumbuye, if he indeed has his proof, as opposed to deliberately peddling fake news while demonizing public officials, must equally perceive this as an opportunity to be accorded a formal and even larger platform to validate all the assertions he has been making for all these years, as he assured his followers he was beyond being arrested by the regime in Kampala. Insisting on speedy and fair trial for their blogger Lumbuye will also cause many Ugandans to see or realize that New Uganda, which NUP has always proclaimed, will be about rule of law as opposed to impunity, where people deliberately character assassinates and demonize others without ever being held to account or corroborate their claims. Well, that is it for now. Thanks for watching Projan Media TV. Baru keep on updating with all this. Kindly do one thing, subscribe and turn on the notification button. All these updates will come to you in time. Once again, thanks for watching Projan Media TV.